Hey, welcome to the Straight Sports Podcast. We're your host, Joshua, and
Tashar.
in this podcast, we give our opinions on our favorite sports, which are basketball, soccer, and wrestling.
So let's get into it, Josh. This is episode 39 of the Straight Sports Podcast. This episode is going to be really awesome. We're going to be going through the play-in, our reactions to all the play-in matchups, and also giving our first round NBA playoff predictions, as well as kind of going through the whole playoff bracket, and as well giving, me and Josh are going to give our answer to who we got winning it all. It's going to be an awesome episode. So let's get it started. So topic number 1, NBA. Like I said before, we're going to give our thoughts on each of the NBA playing matchups. So let's start off with the 7 seed Miami Heat versus the 8 seed Atlanta Hawks. The Hawks won the game 116 to 105. Trae Young led the way with 25 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists. The Hawks secure the 7 seed and now will play the Boston Celtics in the first round. So what are your thoughts on this game?
To me, it was a good game to watch. I mean, I didn't expect this. I predicted the Heat to win,
Mm-hmm.
just looking at the team that the Heat are. But, once again, the Heat show you that, they're just not that team. I mean, the Hawks were the underdogs in this series. I think everyone would agree. Well, most people would agree.
Yeah.
And they come out with a dominant performance. Trae Young, big game. DeJounte, solid game. John Collins with some good minutes. Clint
Yeah.
Capella, 21 rebounds. I think that was
Dominated
one
the
of the
rebounds.
key factors in the game. No one on the Heat even touched 10. Those second chance points, offensive boards, defensive boards. I think that was a big, point on the game. And yeah, shout out Trae Young, had a great game, 25, 8 and 7, even with those trade talks and those, off-season move was potentially looming over his head. Put that to the side, had a great game, and he led the team to the victory.
So first I gotta say, oh, Josh, stand up. This is your team. Oh. Let's go through the game. Obviously, I'm stunned. I've kind of been very heavily critical of the Atlanta Hawks. They've been very disappointing this season, and honestly, I thought they wouldn't even make the playoffs through the play-in. But you got to give them credit. They go into Miami in South Beach and they beat the Miami Heat. They were dominant. They were up almost like over 20 points. The Heat made a run, but it wasn't enough. They were just dominant. The rebound was really the game, and also, we talk about playoff Jimmy. Or now I guess this is playing Jimmy, but he struggled. He didn't have a good game, 6 for 19 from the field. Bam, he has that potential, but he wasn't, 5 for 12. That's not really good. Tyler Hero had a good game. Shout out Kyle Lowry. I mean, 33 points. He did everything he could to keep his team afloat, but it wasn't the Heat's night. We talk about the one game thing. It really is a one game thing. We talk about March Madness. Obviously, with March Madness, you see like crazy upsets. There's like the number 1 seed losing, but this is obviously like 7th and 8th. But regardless, one game, anything can happen. You saw the Atlanta Hawks on fire, and the Heat were just terrible. No energy, and they didn't match the Atlanta Hawks' energy. You got to give them credit. And like I said, I've been very critical of the Atlanta Hawks, and they shocked me. And I mean, we had a lot of the similar playing. I think all of our playing predictions were the same, and we got majority of them wrong. So that's just what it is with the playing. It's crazy, and got to give credit to the Atlanta Hawks.
And just say one more thing,
Yeah,
man. If Kyle Lowry's your best player, bro, it's over. I
this
mean,
guy. Look at the
to
hate
be
for a
honest, bro.
champion.
To be
A
honest, bro.
champion.
Shout out Jimmy, man. Shout out Hero. Bam. Didn't see him on the court,
Well,
but
Jimmy did not have
yeah,
a great game.
still, bro. I rate Jimmy, bro.
Kyle Lowry
Shout
had the
out Jimmy,
best game
bro.
in Miami. Look
He
at, I
did,
mean,
bro.
look,
Like I
30.
said,
He
bro, if
come off the
Kyle Lowry's
bench.
your best player, it's
6 for
over.
9 from 3,
Shout
11
out
for
Lowry,
16
though.
from the
Great
field,
performance.
4 rebounds, 5 assists. I mean, he was flat out phenomenal. He kept
He
them in
was,
the
bro.
game. He
Shout out
brought that
Lowry, man.
run. Come on, man. Give him his
And
flowers, man. Give him his flowers.
Shout out y'all, bro. But this is where y'all belong, man.
Bruh. Looks like that Ray Allen game 6 shot still
No comment
circles
on
in
that.
in your mind. Obviously,
No
I was a
comment on
Spurs fan
that.
at a time too. I know what that felt
At a
like.
time.
I'm a Kawhi fan, so we know how it works. So
Interesting.
let's move on. The 7-seeded Lakers versus the 8-seeded Timberwolves. The Lakers won the game 108 to 102 in overtime. LeBron led the way with 30 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists. The Lakers secure the 7th seed and now will face the Memphis Grizzlies in round 1. So what are your thoughts on that game?
To me, this had potential to be a really good game. It did go to OT, but I gotta say, shout out Carlton Towns, he had a great game as well for the Timberwolves. I mean, but to me, one of the deciding factors of the game was Anthony Edwards, man. I don't know what he was doing. Bro was
He just
chucking
had a
up
bad
threes all
game.
night and
Yeah,
couldn't hit one all game.
he had a bad game.
Like, you got to be aggressive, man. You know that may not be your strong suit, but you got to attack the basket, man. You know the driver you are, and you settling for threes, I think that might have cost his team the game, which I think it did. Um, But yeah, Rudy Gobert absence. I mean, I thought they played really well without him. Some might say they played better in his
They're
absence
better.
than with him
Like I
there.
said, I think
That's a fair
the
debate,
loss of
but
Jaden McDaniels and Naz Reid is
that's
way
true.
more
Yeah,
bigger
both
than
out.
Rudy Gobert. And this franchise going in the offseason gonna have to hope to do
Yep.
something to get him out of there.
Mm-hmm.
He gotta go.
100%
But
true.
that contract ain't no team taking that contract. No team's gonna take that contract.
Facts. Anthony Davis, good game. LeBron, we know what LeBron does. Schroeder with some good minutes off the bench. I mean, yeah, it was a pretty fun game to watch. OT, that was pretty interesting, with the AD foul on Mike Conley, clutch hit all the free throws.
Yeah,
But
clutch shots, Mike
yeah,
Conley. What a game by Mike
I
Conley,
know,
by
right?
the way.
Yeah,
What
shout
a
out
game.
Conley, bro. It
Shout out
was a good
Conley. He had
game,
a
bro.
phenomenal. He still
Yeah.
can play. I've been kind of said, Mike Conley, I didn't know, like I wouldn't say I was always like, oh, Mike Conley could still do this. I feel like I, kind of was skeptical, but man,
Yep.
he's been awesome in Minnesota. He's kind of helped turned around their season. He had a big impact on their team. I really
Hmm.
like the way he played. For me personally, I'm gonna say the Minnesota Timbers could have won this game. They were up 11. I was stunned. I thought the Lakers would blow them out. But the Lakers came back. Their defense, how good they are defensively, and they won the game. But this was a game Minnesota could have won. It felt like they could have won the game and they let themselves lose. This is a game they really should have won. They had this game in the bag. They let the Lakers come back, and you got to give them credit. Without Jaden McDaniels, Naz Reid, and even though I know you talk about Rudy Gobert missing that time, but to still, have a chance to win the game, it speaks credit to them. And really comes down to Anthony never just had a bad game. If he played, for him to go 3-17 and them to go to overtime, man, if he had a good game, the Timberwolves could have had a chance of
Yeah.
winning this game. But regardless, we just saw LeBron, 30 points, just doing what he does at this age, how great he is. We know D'Lo had a bad game. Anthony Davis was great. I mean, 24 and 15 rebounds, so this was a good game for the Lakers. Obviously, a win is a win, even though it's not as impressive. You think the Lakers should have blown them out. I mean, we talking about Minnesota as a so-so team, obviously with them missing those pieces, but Lakers still won the game, and it's going to be interesting, that Memphis series. So we have the 9 seeded Raptors versus the 10 seeded Chicago Bulls. The Bulls were trailing by 19 points and rallied back to win the game 109-105. Levine led the way with 39 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists. The Raptors missed 18 free throws as well. So what are
Yeah.
your reactions to this game?
I mean, the Bulls play really well. Shout out Levine. Shout out DeRozan. Both had great games. Shout out playing Pat. Um, I mean,
Shout
I
out
just
Alex
think it was a good
Caruso.
series. Yeah, shout out Caruso too. I think it was a really good game. I mean, I'm kind of disappointed in the Raptors. I picked them to win as well. I just
Yeah,
assume
we
with the
got a lot
defensive,
of
I
taking a
know,
lot of
right? A lot
L's,
of
man, with
upset.
these picks, bro.
Yeah, I just assume
Yeah.
with their defensive identity, the length they had, they would cause trouble. But Levine was, unconscious out there. But he was hitting everything. DeRozan was a bucket too. I mean, this game was just like I just feel like you never know what could happen, and that's clear as day with this. Siakam had a good game. I just feel like they just couldn't, get it together.
Bottom
It
line
was
is
just
they
kind of weird
lost
to
the
me.
game because they couldn't make a free throw.
I know 18 missed is crazy.
That's too much, bro.
Too much, man.
You
Game
lost by 4
changer.
points. You make a couple of those free throws. It's a different situation. Shout out DeMar DeRozan's daughter, man. She made them miss some free
Right.
throws. You know, Toronto was up. I thought they had this game, and shout out, like you said, DeMar and Levine and Pat. Like they rallied the troops and they came back and they won the game. Um, Zach LaVine was absolutely phenomenal. And it was a fun game to watch. It got really tight, at the end. But we're just looking at Toronto. This is a very sad season for them, unfortunate season. I think there was definitely had higher expectations. I thought they definitely would at least make the playoffs, and the fact that they are missing the playoffs, and with the look at that starting line, they got Siakam, All-Star player, Fred VanVleet is All-Star player, Jakob Poeltl, you know how great he is, OG Anunoby, how great he is, Scotty Barnes, how great he is, all this talent that they got, defensive versatility, and for them to the season before going being the 5th seed, losing to Philly in 6 games, and having this there's definitely gonna be some questions asked of what they're gonna do this offseason, what Nick Nurse is gonna do this offseason is very interesting. A lot of questions of the direction they want to go with this franchise. But regardless, give credit to Chicago for the way they played and the way they rallied and they won this game. It's a testament to them for coming back. And for Toronto, I think again you lose the game. If you miss 18 free throws, you're gonna lose the game. Simple as that.
Yeah.
So let's move on to the next matchup: the 9 seeded Pelicans versus the 10 seeded OKC Thunder. The Thunder won the game 122-118. Shy, Josh Giddey, and Lou Dort led the way. Shy had 32 points. Giddey almost had a triple double: 31 points, 10 assists, 9 rebounds. Lou Dort had 27 points and 5 rebounds. So, what is your reactions to the game?
I mean, it was a really fun game to watch. This is a young team. I mean, they got a really bright future. Chet Holmgren still hasn't touched the court. They got a ton of picks. ton of cap space. I mean, the
Yeah.
sky's the limit for this team. I
Yeah.
mean, having three of your starters score 25 plus, I mean, that's really big. And I feel like the team really flows well and meshes well together. I mean, for the Pelicans, Ingram had a great game. Herbert Jones has a good game too. But I feel like I don't know what it was, honestly, bro. I know CJ kind of struggled.
And
I
the
did hear that he
Williams,
had an
man, they're
injury.
good. The
Yeah,
Williams.
that's true. Yeah, both of them. I heard CJ had had an injury that he's getting surgery for after the playoffs.
Yeah, he's been holding it back. Shout out to him,
So
man, for playing through it,
I
for
applaud
real.
him for playing through that. Zion was out, but
Yeah.
no one really expected him to play. But I just feel like the Thunder, they mesh really well. They're a good young team, and did I expect them to win this?
We took another L. We got 3
Yeah,
playing right
I
there
know,
wrong.
right?
3
Like
out of
every prediction
4.
we have is wrong.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't expect them to win this, but you know, that's just how it is. That's the game. So what do you think about it?
First, I gotta give them credit. OKC's ahead of their time. I mean, for a team that a lot of people projected probably not gonna even be in the play-in, for them to be in this situation is a testament to them, and their belief in them and the coach. Shout out to the coach for they've been having a phenomenal season. Like I said, they're ahead of their time. They got so much draft picks, and the future is bright for them. If they're already in this situation, what could they be next season with Chet Holmgren coming back and all these future picks that they got? They really have a bright future. Like I said, they're really ahead of their time. But I gotta give credit. Shai is just a superstar. It's just simple as that. He's not an all-star. He's a superstar caliber player. He's just a superstar. He is a special player. I mean, to have 32 points, and then Josh Kiddey, man, he's something special, man. I feel like he goes
Yeah,
underrated. How special he is to score the basketball. His playmaking is really great. And Lou Dort, we always talk about how elite he is defensively, but I feel like his offensive games got so much better. I mean, 4 for 8 from three. There was a time that I think a lot of people would leave him open from three, but he's been getting better offensively. And he's a really good two-way player out there. Is one of the best, two-way player. He's getting there. Obviously when I'm talking about one of the best, he could be, up there as being a great two-way player. His offensive game is getting better, so just gonna keep on improving. But shout out to OKC. Obviously, I'm stunned the Pelicans lost, and got to give credit to them. Coming in on the road in New Orleans and eliminating the New Orleans Pelicans from the postseason. I mean, it's shocking. You got to give them credit. So Zion Williamson has only played 114 games in 4 seasons. Zion has missed 194 games. Zion has missed more than 60% of his games in his NBA career. Do you think the Pelicans should consider trading him this offseason?
no chance. I mean, they can't do it. He's a generational talent. We've seen what he does. We've seen his output when he does play, and you can't risk doing this. We've seen other players when they came to the league initially, they were injury prone, kind of. I believe Embiid was like that. AD was kind of like that a little bit. But with these young players, man, you got to keep him, bro. For a franchise like this that don't really have that pull in free agency, you got to keep players like this and you got to hold on. Yes, I know that he hasn't played much games and you're paying him a lot of money. Well, will be because next year I believe the extension starts.
Yeah.
But you can't let him go. I mean, he's clearly shown he's all star. He's an all star right now. His numbers in his few games in the league are insane.
Yeah, he's averaging close to 26 points on 60% shooting for his career.
Yeah, so and that's in limited time.
Yeah.
So if I'm New Orleans, the Pelicans, I'm locking them down. Trading isn't even on my mind because there's nothing you can get in return that's an equal asset. And if you do this, you don't know when your next big player is coming. Yes, you have Ingram, but you obviously need a co-star beside him, besides CJ. So I feel like if I'm New Orleans, I'll never trade him.
Well, for me personally, I agree with you. I don't think you trade him. I think it's too early. Obviously it's unfortunate he's been injured. If you talk about this season, right? Zion, the last game he played this season, the Pelicans at the time were 23 and 14. They were the number 2 seed in the West. After his injury, he doesn't come back. They go 19 and 26. They end up ninth in the West, and they get eliminated in the play-in. As simple as this, and I don't know if you're gonna think that Josh this is a crazy statement. I think you're gonna agree. When Zion Williamson plays with the talent they got, Brandon Ingram and CJ McCollum and the elite coaching and the great depth they got, this is a contending team. They could legit
Yeah,
win
it
the
is.
West. So without Zion, it's tough. Like you see, they're in the play-in. They're now this time they missed it last year. They made it to the postseason, but they're a contending team. They could legit win a series. And it's tough. I think it's too early to trade him. He's so talented. A lot of teams would be willing to give up a lot for him. But it's unfortunate. I think for Zion, it's just about trying to get healthy and hopefully doing everything he possibly could do so he can play um, next season and hopefully he's able to come in the postseason and play because last year when he got injured he didn't play and they you know I don't know if he played at all last season. I'm not too sure. But regardless, like they made the playoffs, but he didn't play in any of those playing games this and the playoffs. And this year he didn't play in the playing game. So it's too early to trade him. I think you got to you see 2 3 years. You got to build this franchise around him because at the end of the day, you have these pieces. They can do something special, and as well, Zion is he's still young. You know, I still believe in him, but obviously there's question marks. Can he be your franchise guy? Because he, majority of the time, 37% he's only been on the court. So there's always question mark, but he's too special. He's too talented. I still, continue to build around him because at the end of the day, this is a small market. It's going to be hard to, like you said, attract free agents. But regardless, 26 on 60% shooting. The man is special. You don't give up on him now. You definitely don't. You got to keep on trying. Okay, so we had the 7 seed of Miami Heat versus the 10 seed of Chicago Bulls. The winner was gonna get the 8 seed. The Miami Heat ended up winning the game 102-91. Jimmy Butler led the way with 31 points and 5 rebounds. Max Strus also with 31 points as well. So what are your thoughts on this game?
Interesting watch. I mean, I feel like this right here shows, the issues that, the Heat team has.
Mhm.
They did get a win carried by Jimmy. And yes, Strus had a big game, but it's really Jimmy and everyone else. He's a league above all of his teammates, I'd say. Bam, no show once
Mm.
again.
Yeah.
I mean, this is your super max player. This is your, future. And he did little to nothing in this game. Very passive, not
He
aggressive at
dominated the
all.
boards though. 17
Yeah, he
rebounds,
did.
but yeah.
Great rebounds, but for your team to advance in the future, they need you to put up some buckets, man. We know
Oh
you
yeah,
can
if he does
shoot.
this against Milwaukee, they're going home real early. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It'll be a very short series. He has the offensive ability. We've seen his range. He can hit some mid ranges. He has some post moves, which I like. But, you know, I feel like this is just a sign of this Heat franchise. And yes, the Bulls did have a good game. DeRozan played solid. Levine
He
played
struggled.
decent. Yeah, kind of a
Struggled.
step back from his big
6 for
performance last
21,
game.
yeah, he struggled.
Yeah, but it was an interesting watch, and shout out to the Heat for advancing. But like I said, uh, this Heat team goes as Jimmy goes, and he's gonna need a lot of help if they want to contend for anything in the near future.
Mm. Yeah, my thoughts on the game, it was pretty. It was I mean, the Miami Heat kind of got up to a big lead, and then the Bulls kind of came storming back. I think going into the third, the Bulls were up, I think 68-67. But the Miami Heat had a dominant. I think fourth quarter, I think they scored 35-23. So, but Jimmy Butler led the way. I mean, in the beginning, I felt like the fourth quarter, he really stepped up. I feel like, and he was dominant, making an and one shots, playmaking, doing everything the team needed. And it just shows, I think the last game you could argue he didn't have a great game in the game against the Hawks, but he stepped up tonight. Shows that, when because this is playing, but this is basically playoff basketball. Win or go home, basically in this sense. So he showed up big time, and he was huge. And Max, shout out Max Strus. I mean, 7 threes. He had an absolutely big game. And yeah, Bam Adebayo disappointing. I mean, he's been very inconsistent. We always talk about the potential of being a great star player in this league, but playing like this is really inconsistent. And I feel like sometimes we know what Jimmy's gonna do. Like, for this team to really accomplish what they want to accomplish, Bam is really the most important player. Yeah, Jimmy Butler's the best player, but Bam Adebayo has to be the most important player. And if he plays like this, like we talked about Milwaukee, they would have, in a week they'll be going home because this is a very bad performance offensively for him. Great, rebounding, but I feel like passive. He needs to be way more aggressive. But they won the game. You got to give them credit. And yeah, they're gonna play the best team in the East, so that's gonna be it's gonna see how that goes. Um, but yeah, for Chicago, I mean, obviously, DeRozan had I think a decent game, 26, 9 for 19, pretty decent. Levine, he struggled. Vucevic played, I mean, 6 for 9. It was pretty efficient. Obviously, not too many shots, and it's understandable. They got a lot of great players on their team. Zach Levine struggled. But yeah, it was a fun game. I think it was pretty close, and then obviously towards the fourth quarter, towards the end, Miami Heat just kind of exploded and took this game, and yeah, now the Bulls have been eliminated, and Miami's moving on. So now that the Bulls are officially eliminated and have failed to make the playoffs, how would you assess their season? Do you think the Bulls will rebuild or bring this core back?
Um, I don't think that they will rebuild right away. As we know, Lonzo was out for a majority, well, basically the entire season, and we know what he can bring to the team, playmaking wise, offensively, and with his defense and 3 point shooting, stretching the floor. Yeah, they did have a mediocre season, not really good at all for the talent that they have. I feel like if I'm the GM, I'm gonna see where Lonzo's at come off season time, and if he's not looking ready for the regular season coming up, I might make some moves. But if he is healthy and ready to play, I'm just gonna run it back with the same roster and see how far we
Yeah.
can get. Because
Would you resign Vooch? Vooch is a free agent. Do you think it makes
uh,
sense for them to resign
I don't know
him?
if I resign Vooch. I mean,
Do you let him
he
walk?
obviously is a pretty big contributor, but I feel like I don't know, like there's possibly not something better, but just a better fit for the team. I feel
Yeah.
like they would do better with a defensive oriented, center instead of one that's
Yeah.
Vooch who is more offensive minded. Because you do have a lot of offensive minded players on the court at one time. With
Mm.
DeRozan, with Levine. And I feel like they're trying to shift their identity a bit with the Pat Beverly signing. They do have Caruso too, but I just feel like a more defensive center would fit them best. So I wouldn't re-sign Vooch, and I just keep the same core and try to go at it next season with hopefully a healthy Lonzo. What do you think?
Yeah. I think I heard Alonzo most likely is missing the majority of the next season. That's one thing I did hear.
Wow, really?
I think there was a report on it a couple of months back or something about, that his expectation that he's like that he would miss a majority of the season next year as well. So it's tough. That's going to be his like what third knee surgery. So it's tough. We always want to see Lonzo healthy. Because first we know the first year when they got Lonzo and DeRozan, they were the number one seed. I mean, at a time, and then that year, the year that they got the sixth seed and lost in the first round to the Bucks, it was just all injuries that they continued to fall, but DeRozan just carried the team. But kind of assessing their season, I mean, it's an absolute failure. I mean, there's nothing really to speak on it. Obviously, they didn't have Lonzo, and that's tough because he was a huge part of their team. But if you look at them last season, they made the playoffs, and it was just DeRozan. Really, everybody was injured. In this season, they struggled to get to the play-in. Patrick Beverly's addition really helped them, I think, secure a play-in spot. They won their first play-in matchup, and then they didn't make the playoffs. So I think you assess the season as a failure. I mean, they didn't make the playoffs, and I think for the talent that they have, it's kind of surprising. I mean, you have DeMar and Zach LaVine; they're two All-Star caliber players. You got Vucevic; he's been an All-Star in this league. I mean, you got Caruso, Patrick Beverly, Patrick Williams, Billy Donovan as your coach. Just like for the talent and the players that they got on their team, it's kind of surprising how bad they've been as a team. Obviously, like I said, Lonzo's a huge part of their team, but still, I don't think they should have been as bad as they were. And
Yeah,
to talk about like whether they rebuild or bring the core back, I think that's a decision Chicago's gonna really have to think about because at the end of the day, I feel like you run it back, assuming depending on again Lonzo, if let's say Lonzo's not able to return next season, like or for the majority of next season, then it's like it feels like they'd be in the same position, just struggling to make the the play in and it just feels like it's not really worth it. And I feel like maybe there might be need to be huge conversation between Zach and the franchise, maybe Demar and the franchise, just the direction they need to go. Because honestly, I feel like they're gonna struggle to make the playoffs next year as well if they bring the same crew back. And I honestly think it could make some sense for a rebuild. It probably would
yeah,
be a positive for both sides. Both could get a lot in return, and these two guys could, maybe go to a team that is a contender. So it's a discussion need to have. Obviously, it depends on the health of Lonzo, but I think the assumption is the reports have been saying that he'd probably come back. He'll probably miss majority of next season, and with Vucevic
that's
being,
crazy.
I don't expect him to re-sign. I don't think they would re-sign him. I think he would walk. He'd be gone. I just don't think this team could really even make the playoffs right now. I mean, they got like I said, they got so much talent. So surprised how not able to, to have DeMar, Zach, and Vooch. Those are like three All-Star players, and the fact that they can't even make the playoffs is kind of disappointing. But yeah, I think there's real conversation need to have about rebuilding because I don't see this team really doing anything next season. Let's move on to the next game. Obviously, the 8 seeded Minnesota Timberwolves versus the 10 seeded OKC Thunder. The winner gets the 8th seed. The Timberwolves won the game 120-95. Karl Anthony Towns led the way with 28 points and 11 rebounds. Rudy Gobert also had a really solid game, 21 points and 10 rebounds. And the Timberwolves will play the Denver Nuggets in round one. So, what are your thoughts on this game?
Uh, Interesting game. I did like that both of these young teams are competing for a playoff spot, but this compared from the last game for the Thunder was like night and day. I mean, Shea
Mm.
struggled, Giddy struggled, Dort had a decent game, but I feel like that core just never really got into the game. Shea was getting locked up by Nikhil Alexander Walker the entire game.
Oh,
I just
he
feel
played
like
a great. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, they
They're
they they kind
cousins
of game
too. I
plan for
was
him. Yeah, I know I
hearing.
seen that. I feel like they game plan for him perfectly. Rudy Gobert with a great game. You know, kind of what we expect for him, double double. Karl Anthony Towns with a dominant performance. I mean, we know what he can do scoring wise. He's offensively gifted. Connolly, another solid game. I mean, kind of what we expect. Mr. Consistent.
I love his addition to this team. I know they lost D'Lo through a trade, but what they kind of got in return, because he was probably going to leave in free agency because they couldn't agree to a
Yeah.
contract extension to get Mike Conley, and they got Nikhil Alexander Walker in that trade as well. So I mean, you see the impact he had tonight defensively too.
hmm Anthony Edwards, he had a better game than last time. I
Yeah,
mean, I'm glad that he wasn't just settling for threes. He
yeah,
was attacking the basket.
yeah. 10 rebounds, 6 assists. Yeah,
Mhm.
pretty good.
I still can see him doing like a bit better. Like, but I feel like that comes with experience. He is a pretty young player, so I just
Yeah.
thought it was a good game overall.
So I like the way the Minnesota Timberwolves played. Tonight, everybody, the starting five. Look at it. I mean, 28 points for Cat, 14 for Conley, Nickel Alexander Walker, 12 points. Anthony Edwards, 19. Rudy Gobert, 21. I mean, everybody kind of in double digits kind of felt like even scoring throughout the whole team. And obviously with Minnesota Timberwolves, they've kind of gone through a disaster. I mean, the way the season ended with, Rudy Gobert and then the Kai Anderson situation, Jaden McDaniel kind of punching the wall, you losing him. It was just all disaster. And then, they were still able to win that game against the Pelicans, which was a huge game because it gave them two opportunities to make the playoffs. And then, they lost the game to the Lakers, which was a winnable game. And then they went to play this game against OKC, a team that, shocked a lot of people with that Pelicans win. And
Yeah,
it felt like they were coming in with a hot streak, and Minnesota is all disaster. And obviously Rudy Gobert returns, and regardless, it's still they'll move past that, but it's still like a situation. It's very recent. I mean, it would happen April 9th, very recent. So um, I like the way how they kind of just moved on and they just focus on basketball and they won a basketball game. And
yeah,
obviously Rudy Gobert got a lot of criticism for kind of what happened, and got to give him the props for the way he played. He had a really good game. Um, yeah, he played efficient. I mean, 6 for 11, 9 for 14 from the free throw line, 10 rebounds. I mean, I just like the way he played. I think he had a great game. And yeah, I mean, I like the addition of Mike Conley. Just Minnesota just dominated OKC, and this was the game OKC. They just had a bad game. It was just as one of those games. It's still impressive that they even won a playing game, but they just had a bad game. Shy struggled, kind of think Giddy struggled. Lou Dort, okay game. He played pretty good. I mean, I like the way Lou Dort plays. He's a great two-way player. He plays really good defensively. But yeah, they just kind of struggled tonight. It wasn't their night, and they just had a bad game offensively. I mean, they shot 32 point. No, they shot 36% from the field as a team compared to Minnesota, who shot, I think, yeah, they shot 43 to 83 from the field. So yeah, it was like I said, it was a good game. Minnesota dominated, I think. In the beginning, it was a little close, but then Minnesota ultimately just won the game. And yeah, Minnesota now going to play Denver, so we're going to see how that goes for them. But yeah, so how would you assess the OKC Thunder season? How bright is OKC's future?
I mean, I think they had a great season. I think they were projected to win like I think less than 30 games this season.
Yeah,
So I
probably less than
mean,
that.
they
Yeah,
shocked the world. They showed that with this
season was
young
a
core, they can
success.
compete. They can, play meaningful games, which they did here. They did and ultimately end up losing, but the future is extremely bright. Chet
Mhm.
Holmgren, the number 2 pick from last season, didn't even play a game yet. So we yet to see him. I assume they're gonna have a decently top pick this season because they have a ton of picks. So let's see how much picks they have in this draft. But I feel like they're on the rise. They already have their young superstar in Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. They have a young co-star in Giddy. Lou Dort is there. Jalen Williams is there. They just have a great young core. and they have a ton of cap space too, so they might even snag a free
They
agent
got
signing.
15 draft picks in the next 5
Yep.
years as
so
well.
so their future is extremely bright, and this team is on the rise.
Yeah. I view their season as a success. I mean, this is a team that people probably thought wasn't definitely not going to be in the play-in, probably one of the lower seats. And probably people thinking they might be fighting for the sweepstakes of Victor, the number one pick.
Yeah.
And for them to have the season that they had, being in the play-in, that's still a big step. That's still, being kind of in the playoffs because those are meaningful games for those teams. But I know it's a little different. It's not the top eight, but to be in the play-in and then to win a playing game against the Pelicans, against Brandon Ingram Sr., who's made the playoffs last season. Huge game. Their young guys really played really good. Shy the way he played, and then Josh Giddey and Lou Dort. I think that was a big game for them. They gained some experience, and then they might have lost this game, unable didn't make the playoffs. But regardless, I feel like already they're ahead of what they were kind of scheduled. I mean, this is probably
Yeah.
something you might see them thinking, okay, this maybe they might do this next year, the year after that. But no, they've done it this year, making the play-in compared to what people thought they would be. So I view their season as a success. And yeah, the future is bright. I mean, Chet's gonna come back next season. I mean, they're only gonna get better from here. I mean, they won 40 games. I mean, that's really impressive. And you gotta give Sam Presti a lot of credit, the coach. I mean, I even saw he was a finalist for Coach of the Year, the
Yeah.
OKC coach. So, and he deserves that. I mean, they had a really good season for kind of what was the expectations, and future's really bright, and it's gonna be scary because all these picks that they got. I mean, I like the way what Sam Presti does. I mean, going from the era of Russ, obviously KD leaves them, and then you go from the era of Russ and PG, kind of retool, and it's paying off. It really is. So shout out Sam Presti. He's one of the best GMs out there.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So next, topic 2, NBA playoffs predictions for the first round. So, what are Eastern Conference predictions in the first round matchup between the first seed Bucks and the 8 seed Miami Heat?
So for me, I think for me, I think I got the Bucks in 5. I mean, regardless, yeah, the Heat, have had kind of a season I didn't expect them to be, this low in the standings, but I think the Bucks are just on another level right now. They're the best team in the Eastern Conference based on record. They got elite depth. They added Jay Crowder. They got Bobby Portis there. Chris Middleton is back. Drew Holiday, I feel like, is having maybe his best season in a Bucks uniform. He made the All-Star team. He's been really good. So I got the Bucks in 5. I think they're just gonna cruise through Miami.
100% agree. I mean, I'm going to say 5 just out of respect for Jimmy Butler. I rate him as a player. I think he can steal a game, but I don't think this will be too much of a competitive series. I mean, we've seen how the Hawks manhandled the Heat on the inside, and with Giannis and Brook Lopez in the paint, it's going to be even worse for them. So I don't think, like I said, this will be too much of a series. I'm going to say Bucks in 5. So next, the second seed Celtics versus the 7th seed Atlanta Hawks.
Hey Josh, do you have a broom on you?
No broom, man. No broom.
Sweep, sweep. 4-0 for them. The Celtics are going to sweep the Hawks. The Hawks, shout out to them again for beating
Really?
Miami. But I don't see them winning a game in this series. The Celtics have top defense, in the league. And I just don't. You got Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. They added Brogdon, who's been a great addition. I just don't see a way the Hawks, even win a game in this series. The Celtics are dominant, and they're on a mission. They really want to, get back to the finals. And even though, the Hawks are a great team, Trae Young and the DeJounte Murray, they got some pieces. I just think the Celtics are going to cruise by them. I don't think this is going to be much of a series. And we saw last season when they played the Nets, that was KD, Kyrie. They swept them. They're going to do the same thing.
Fair. I mean, kind of harsh with that sweep, but this may be controversial, but I'm going Celtics in 6. I mean, I feel
Oh.
like the Hawks will put up a fight here. They have a solid team, good
So the guy
backcourt.
who said the Hawks weren't going to even make the playoffs,
Good
now got
backcourt.
the
I mean, hey
Hawks.
man, they
Now they
showed
got
me,
him
bro. They showed me something different, bro. That
one
that game
game.
was inspiring, bro. One
One
game,
game.
one game changed it all, bro.
All
And I
right.
was high on them all season, bro. I just didn't think they matched up well against the Heat. I do think that they match up well better. I do think that they match up better against the Celtics, though.
There's no
I
way they
mean,
match him.
they have an elite backcourt in Trae Young and
Okay.
DeJounte. We know
Okay.
DeJounte's a lockdown defender, bro. I expect him to cause Jaylen Brown a lot of trouble.
All right. We'll
But
see about
with
that.
that being said, I do think the Hawks can take 2 games.
Okay.
But the series should be pretty comfortable for the Celtics. So next, The third seed 76ers versus the sixth seed Nets.
For me again, I think Sixers and five. I don't think it's gonna be much of a
Really?
competitive series for the Sixers. I mean, at the end of the day, you got James and Joel, Tyrese Maxey, Tobias Harris. They're the third best team in the East, and we know, like I said, I think Embiid's almost clear cut to win the MVP. They should win this series with no problems. I like what the Nets have been doing. I mean, even with all the trades they made this season, and Mikal Bridges has been playing like an all-star. He's been phenomenal. I can see the Nets winning one game in this series, but the Sixers should breeze by. I think at the end of the day, Joel Embiid, they're not gonna have anybody to stop him. James Harden is gonna kind of dominate like he always does, and Maxi Harris, and they got a good depth. I just think the Sixers, this should be a series. They shouldn't allow it to go more than 5 games. Even a sweep wouldn't be surprising, but I think the Nets will win one game.
Mm, could you pass the broom here because I think this one will be a sweep.
All right.
I don't know how you can figure that the Hawks will have like a harder time like stealing a game, but I feel like the Nets, bro, like they're not even like this should be a warm up series for the 76ers, man. I'm
All
expecting
right.
4 games. Anything more than 4 games, bro, my eyebrows will be raised. This should be an easy series. No one to guard Joel. No one to guard. I mean, yes, they do have Finney
Claxton's
Smith,
been
and
pretty
they
decent
do have
against
some
them
good
though.
defenders actually
Yeah.
on the Nets team. But
A lot
I
of
feel
wing
like
defense. They basically the
like
Clippers with all that. They
that's
got all wing
basically, but
defenders.
I feel like this should be a warm up series for 76ers. I'm expecting 4 games,
Okay.
honestly. Now next, big series.
This is gonna be the
The fourth
tightest. This
seed
is gonna be the
Cavs
best. This is gonna be the best
versus
series in the East.
the fifth seed Knicks. What do you think?
You don't gotta ask me.
Yeah,
Orange
I
and blue
know.
skies, like they say. Knicks in
Delusional.
6.
Wow.
Knicks in 6, and I'm gonna tell you why. Regardless, I like you. You talk about, and we expect Julius Randle to be back. So you have Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle and Donovan Mitchell and Garland on the other hand. I think there's an argument to say both of these duels are pretty even. Am I wrong? I mean, at the end of the day, the
I mean,
Knicks
there's a
did
debate for
beat the
that. Yeah.
Cavs 3-1. Jalen Brunson's been averaging over 24 this season. Julius Randle's been averaging the same. Donovan Mitchell's been averaging, I think, in the high 20s. Garland's been averaging in the mid to low 20s. I mean, they're pretty even when it comes to the duels. You could argue the Cavs on paper have a better team starting lineup, but you got the one key factor. The Knicks' depth is really good. I like their depth. You got Quickly, Topman. They got a lot of good pieces off the bench. Quickly could win six man of the year. I think it's gonna be a fun series, very tight. But the reason I got the Knicks bottom line is, in Jalen Brunson, we believe because he's been phenomenal. We saw what he did with the Mavericks last season, helping them get to the conference finals. And this season, the Dallas Mavericks are not even in the postseason. He's going to be great. And I think Julius Randle is going to have a bounce back postseason. I know he struggled 2 years ago against the Hawks, but now he got Brunson. It opens up for him. He's going to have a good series. But I think this series, is gonna come down to the depth, and I think the Knicks' depth is better. And yeah, this is gonna be a fun series. This is really gonna be an awesome series. But I got the Knicks winning in 6. I think the Knicks' depth is better. I mean, they're pretty even when it comes to the duels, but I think the Knicks' depth is better, and I expect Jalen Brunson to have a phenomenal series and help the Knicks win a first round playoff series in a minute.
Interesting take. Kind of expected from a Knicks fan, but I mean a part time Knicks fan.
I mean,
But
I always talk
me,
about Knicks greater than Nets. I never said I was
me,
a Knicks fan, but I always, when it comes, you gotta support the Knicks over the Nets. It's always like that. And
shout out to real
I've been
Knicks
right
fans.
about the Knicks.
Shout out
I've been
Danny. But
shout out Danny for sure, for sure.
I'ma
But I've been right
say,
about the Knicks. I've been actually right about the Knicks. I said they would be a lock for a top 6
I mean,
seed,
you know what
and
they
I was
say,
getting
bro.
laughed at in the
You know what
beginning
they
of the
say about the
season.
broken clock, bro. But I'm not gonna say the same, bro. But
All right.
I'm gonna say this, bro. I have the Cavaliers win this series in, I'd say, 6 or 7, man.
Okay.
I think this would be a competitive series. It's a good match between two similar teams in the rankings. I'd say there's not much separating these two teams, but I just think the Cavaliers have an edge here. They have an elite scorer in Donovan Mitchell. Obviously, the Knicks have some talent in Brunson as well, Randall as well, who will be coming back.
Two All Stars in the Knicks. We know Jalen
True.
Brunson was All Star.
Um, I think
I think the
Garland is a,
duels are
is a
pretty
good
even.
matchup
Yeah.
for Brunson. I mean, production wise anyway. But I feel like
The
the
last.
Cavs just have an edge here, and I feel like the
Mhm.
Cavs will take the series in 6 or 7.
Just remember last time Brunson, there was no Randall. He dropped 48. He's
That's
capable of
true.
doing this.
That's true.
They won 3-1. I know it's a regular season, but they've been pretty impressive against Cleveland, and they were all tight games. So
So moving on to the Western Conference, what is your prediction for the game with the first seed Denver Nuggets versus the 8 seed Timberwolves?
the Timberwolves, obviously They've not had a good season. Their expectation is apparently championship or bust. Bringing in the big acquisition of Rudy Gobert. I mean, huge, huge acquisition. A franchise-changing acquisition. 11 points and 10 rebounds. Huge. But regardless, with the besides the trolling and hilarious things I've been saying, um, another broom that would be a sweep, and they will be upset because they would lose another first round, and they'd be in the same position that they were last year when they lost to Memphis, and they had a good chance of winning that series. But the Nuggets are winning four. You got Joker. They got a lead depth. I think Joker's unguardable. He's really good. Jamal Murray, MPJ will have great series, and this will just be like you said about the Nets series. This will just kind of be a warm up series for the Denver Nuggets.
100% agree. How much games did you say?
I said four. Sweet.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna say, yeah, I'm gonna say four too. Honestly, like I could be generous and say five, but I'm gonna be realistic here. I think this will be like you said, a warm up series for Denver. Should be pretty easy. Obviously, yes, we know Minnesota has some talent, but I feel like Denver here is just too good. They have the edge in almost every position. But I feel like, it'll be a good, entertaining series to watch. But I feel like Denver just has it.
I don't know about entertaining, but
So next, the second seed Memphis Grizzlies versus the seventh seed Lakers.
I'm gonna just tell you this. In my opinion, this is a pick'em series. I think this is gonna be an awesome series. I got the Lakers in seven. The reason I'm
Mm,
going it because of Memphis missing Brandon Clark and Steven Adams. I think that's a huge loss for them. Steven Adams has been really good for them because when they lost him, they started losing a lot of games. And Brandon Clark is so underrated. But you got John Moran, you got Desmond Bain, you got Dylan Brooks, Jaren Jackson, who's probably going to win Defensive Player of the Year. They got the talent. I think John Moran, Desmond Bain going to have big series for them to win this series. But the bottom line, Lakers best defensive team since the trade deadline. You got LeBron James, Anthony Davis. I think Anthony Davis is going to have to dominate this series as he should because there's no Steven Adams, there's no Brandon Clark. Jaren Jackson is going to have problems guarding Anthony Davis. This should be an Anthony Davis domination series. LeBron James going to do what LeBron James does. They got great depth. Um, they got D'Lo. They got a lot of great pieces. I think ultimately the Lakers will edge out and win this series, but I think it's going to be a really tight series because Memphis been saying we fine in the West, so they're coming now. Let's see. They want all the smokes. I want to see how they perform, but I like the Lakers winning seven. I think it's going to be a fun series, a very physical series, and it's going to be awesome. But I got the Lakers in seven. Game seven, give me LeBron.
um, honestly, I'm gonna go with Lakers in six.
Mm.
Um, I know the Grizzlies do have some talent, but I'm not picking them over the LeBron-led Lakers. We've seen what happened with them against the Warriors last time, and obviously, we know that they can compete. But I just don't see them, going the distance against this team. I mean, I did have them as my pretenders. We know they're one of the best teams record-wise, but on the court will it materialize? I don't know. I feel like they're close to being a really really good team, like as in like a true contender. But I feel like they're just missing something. I don't know what it is. Maybe they'll get it soon, but I just don't see them getting past the Lakers, like you said, AD, LeBron, and I just don't see them winning the series. So I'm gonna say Lakers in six.
Hmm.
So next, the third seed Kings versus the six seed Warriors.
I think it's gonna be a fun series. I think shout out to the Kings that game one and their arena is gonna be electric. They haven't been in the playoffs in 16 years. It's gonna be a fun series, but I think experience is gonna come to is gonna factor, and I think the Warriors are gonna win in six now that Wiggins is expected to return for game one. I think the Warriors will win this series. I think the Kings will be a good test for them. I mean, regardless, they might be one of more of the worst. They're not very strong defensively, but the Warriors they got the offense. You got two all-star players. They got great depth. Got Herder. You got um, Devon Devon Mitchell. You got Tegan Murray. Really good team. But the Warriors should win this series. It's gonna be a tough series for them. I expect the Kings to win two games. But you got Steph, you got Clay, Draymond, you got the depth. You got the championship experience, the championship pedigree, and that's what I think they need to rely on. And I think they are gonna win this series. It's gonna be a fun series. But yeah, the Warriors should win this series. But I'm excited about this one.
Yeah, I agree. I'm gonna say Warriors in six. I mean, the Kings, they were one of my sleeper teams, I believe. They have a good roster, great coach, Mike Brown. I feel like the Warriors just have too much experience, too much championship pedigree and the talent they have. I feel like this series will be entertaining to watch. It's two fast-paced teams, two up and down teams. but I feel like the Warriors will just have the edge here in 6. Now next, the 4th seed Suns versus the 5th seed Clippers.
So I want to say first, I have a lot of answers here. Okay, we know
Yeah,
Paul George is gonna miss probably the beginning of the series, or who knows the whole series. I want to say first one thing. I know he's not gonna play probably game 1 or game 2, but if Paul George was healthy and he started this series game 1, I would have had the Clippers winning in 6. I think because of the fact that you got Paul George and Kawhi, KD, Booker. You could argue these duos canceled out because these are all guys who could score 30 in their sleep. But then the Clippers have better depth and they're the better defensive team and they got the coaching edge. So that's why I would take the Clippers in 6. But now if Paul George, I think returns mid-series, let's say game 3, game 4, I don't know what percent Paul George will be. And due to that, I would pick the Suns in 7 because if he returns in game 3, game 4, I think he might be 70%, 80%. What he said on his podcast, kind of gives me concern. He's like, I'm going to do everything I can. So it's clear that like he's going to do everything to come back. But what percent will he be? 70, 80? Will he just come in and be the dominant Paul George that he was? I'm not too sure. And obviously, if PG doesn't return in the series at all, I got the Suns in 6 because regardless, I think a lot of people think that if Paul George doesn't return, the Suns are going to breeze by the Clippers in 4 or 5 games. I've been hearing that a lot. But I think when you have Kawhi Leonard hasn't been in the postseason in 2 years, he's going to we know if you look at his history, he's been dominant in the postseason. He's had elite postseason runs. And I feel like Russell Westbrook got a chip on his shoulder. He got something to prove. And I think Russ is going to have a good postseason. Norman Powell is going to step up. Him and Russ are going to step up and allow the Clippers to win 2 games. And Ty Lue, the king of adjustments, one of the best coaches in the league, he always finds a way when people count him out. He's a special coach. I do believe the Clippers' depth compared to the Suns' depth, the Clippers' depth is better, and they got better defensive guys, meaning they're a better defensive team. And they got a lot of guys that could throw at Kevin Durant, obviously, and Booker. Obviously, I'm not saying they're going to stop them, but they got, Kawhi. They got Nick Batum. You got Robert Covington, Terrence Mann. Got a lot of different guys they can try to stop these 2-star players. But regardless, Paul George not being healthy is a huge factor, and why I think the Suns would ultimately win the series. But I think it's going to be very competitive, and I expect after the first 2 games, I expect the series to be 1-1. I expect the Clippers to win 1 game on the road and shock the world. I think a lot of people are sleeping on them. They don't think they could even challenge them. And I don't like that. The Clippers got elite defense, great depth, and they got the coaching advantage. The Suns, yeah, they got the better 2 because it's Kawhi versus, Kawhi, this one superstar versus those two stars over there, superstar players. But regardless, I expect for me, if the Clippers are, let's say, without Paul George, if they're going to win this series, I think this is what's going to have to happen. First, they're going to be locked in defensively. That's 1. 2, Kawhi Leonard's going to have to be even more phenomenal. He might have to put up a 35-point per game playoff run, which he could do. And Russ and Norman Powell going to have to step up. And off the bench, they're going to have that one X factor. We saw Terrence Mann have a 39-point game in the playoffs. They're going to have something like that. And yeah, like I said, when you have Ty Lue and Kawhi, I always believe, and I ain't going to stop believing. And I wouldn't be surprised if this is an upset series. People are sleeping on the Clippers. They think they're a joke because without Paul George, they don't got a shot. They got a shot, and we're going to see what happens.
Interesting take, but me not really expecting much here. Without PG, I mean, we've been saying all season he's the X factor. I don't think the Clippers have any chance. I'm gonna say without PG, 5 games.
Okay.
I know Kawhi maybe can steal a game, but I feel like the Kevin Durant, Booker, CP3 combo will be too much. Yes, we know they have depth. I don't know why he's talking about depth when they're going to be playing with an 8-man rotation, and all their depth is literally in the same position in the wings. But interesting take. And if PG returns, I'm gonna give them losing in 6 games because I don't think he'll return 100%. I even heard he was kind of like a little bit rushing to come back, so that gives me for sure the belief that he's not coming back 100%.
If PG was here from the beginning, this could have been the best. I think the series. I mean, you have Paul George, Kawhi, KD,
I don't know
Booker.
about that.
I mean,
man.
Just on paper, if he was there from game 1, you don't think this could be a 7-game series?
We know the Clippers are
hold up.
on paper team.
If he was here from game 1 healthy, don't you think this could be a 7-game series?
No.
From game 1.
No.
I mean,
I don't.
The stars cancel each other out. You got better depth
in
on
your
the Clippers
mind.
side,
In your
better
mind,
coaching.
they do, bro.
They don't cancel each other out?
No. Sorry, they don't, bro.
So you're telling me Kevin Durant and Devin Booker are a superior to Kawhi and PG? It's not
Yeah.
even close.
I mean, sure, it could be close, but it's not canceling out. Like,
I
come on,
mean,
bro.
who's better, Paul George or Booker?
I mean, that's a debate. Who's better, KD or Kawhi?
Obviously, you give the edge to KD. I'm not
Exactly.
saying
So
that,
so if
but
one's a debate and one's a clear answer, you know who has the
but
edge.
it's not.
Be
But
real.
it could cancel. These both guys could score. All four guys could score 30, and they're the better
Yeah,
defensive
in theory,
wings.
sure. And just to
Let me
continue,
see.
man, we know the Clippers' defensive woes. I mean, sure, they're an on paper team. The Suns aren't that great defensively either, but the Clippers, I mean,
Sleeping
it's
on the
looking a bit
Clippers, man.
paper thin, man. But I'm
Sleeping
gonna
on.
say this,
All I'll
man.
say this: Kawhi
Shout out
Leonard
to the
got
Clippers, bro.
okay.
Kawhi has zero pressure, man. Just go out
Interesting.
there, have some fun, bro. Just play the game, bro. Because we know in a few weeks' time you'll be sitting at home watching the game from the TV, man. So shout out to
Yeah,
Clippers, man. It was good. It was a good run, bro. Everything that can go wrong for this team will go wrong. I mean, it's really just tough, man. Like y'all can't catch a break. It's one thing. That's a PG injury. Then it's Kawhi load managing. It's just very tough, man. But next season, I mean, I hope you'll have full health. Y'all go at it then, man. But as for this series, without PG, 5 games. With PG, 6 games, man. Congratulations on the Suns for advancing, man.
All right, I'll remember when you said that because if they, first of all, there's no, I agree. People gonna say, oh, because I'm biased when it comes to Kawhi, but yeah, I
You
don't think he
are.
has pressure, regardless, because
I agree.
people argue, he's kind of on his own. He don't got his second star, so if he wins the series, that's just gonna elevate his legacy. It would shock the world, but obviously Paul George was here from the jump. I think he would have pressure for sure, but he's not. But it's a tough break for them. Steve Ballmer didn't, and Lawrence Franks didn't invest in this team to be a first round exit, but unfortunately they're in a tough matchup. They're kind of wounded. They're missing their second best player, and the Suns could kind of look into this and not underestimate them because they should win this series, but don't underestimate the Clippers. I'm telling you, man, they're going to shock. Just remember, after game 2 is going to be 1-1. It's not going to be 2-0. Just remember I said that.
Yeah, bro. Just keep dreaming, bro.
All right. All right. All I know is if Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Paul George doesn't return and they lose this series, we know Joshua is gonna be invisible from this podcast. He's gonna
Bro,
say
that
no
won't
comment
happen, bro.
for the rest of
That's
the
a
world.
dream for you, bro.
All right, all right. Keep sleeping on the Clippers. Keep sleeping on Kawhi
I'm
because
not
Kawhi
sleeping,
hasn't been in
bro.
the postseason in 2 years. He's on revenge tour. He knows what's happening. He
He's on
knows
a revenge tour for
people
a
knows
first round out.
he hasn't been in the playoffs 2 years. I'm telling you, man, he's gonna have a 40-point game in this postseason. Watch.
And with a loss. Actually,
All right,
that might be the one win. I did say Suns and 5, bro. That might be their one win.
all right, all right, all right. We'll
Shout
see
out
what
Ty
happens.
Lue, though. Free Ty Lue, man.
All right, all right. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. I just want to say, my bad, last thing. I want to say,
Okay.
if Paul George was here from the jump, I already know I had the Clippers winning it all. But obviously he's not here, so that changes everything.
Delusional.
Go ahead.
This is what Clippers fans do, bro. They're so starved for success that they'll make up these scenarios in their mind
You're telling me if Paul George
this
is
man
healthy, they
just
can't win the
said
West?
this man just said that
I
if
said from the
PG's
jump. He
there,
was here from the
if
jump.
PG's there for the jump to win in the West, do you really
Yeah.
believe that?
Yes.
Do you actually believe? Step out from the bias, bro. Do you really believe that, bro?
Yes. You got 2 elite
I
superstar
can't, bro.
caliber players,
I
elite
can't with this,
defense,
bro.
elite depth, elite coaches. Everything they have elite.
Elite depth. You're playing an 8-man rotation, like I said. You're
Norman
saying
Powell's
depth,
a 6-man
bro.
a year candidate. You got
It's 8-man
Mason
rotation,
Plumlee.
bro.
You got Robert Covington.
Covington's not playing.
Terrence Mann. That's
like, bro.
that's 4 players. That's a
You
9.
name 4 players and Covington isn't playing. That's 3 players.
No.
Covington
They would
has
have
been DNP
They
all
would have a
season.
9 to 10
Come
man
on, bro.
rotation.
Nobody
I
plays
always
with a
believe
10.
that you got Kawhi and PG could go up against any duo in the league.
Of course you would say that, bro.
I mean, I don't know if I'm wrong about that. We've seen Kawhi and how special he could be. We've seen Paul George when Kawhi was there, how special he was to help that team get to that conference finals. Just keep sleeping. Just keep sleeping on the Clippers.
I'm gonna stay asleep, bro.
All right.
I'm gonna stay asleep, bro.
All right.
So next, what is your playoff bracket? Who do you think will be the 2 teams in the finals, and who do you think is gonna win it all?
So this is interesting. Obviously, and you already know I would have the Clippers going to the finals if Paul George is there from the jump.
Yeah,
but
we
since he's
know.
not, and my expectation is I don't know if he's going to be able to come in the first round. And due to that, right now, this is my pick. Again, so obviously in the second round, so we already have our first round predictions, and then we go to the second rounds. I would have the Bucks versus the Knicks in the second round, and the Sixers versus the Celtics. I think the Bucks would win in 6 games against the Knicks. I think the Knicks would make it a competitive series, but at the end of the day, the Bucks are the team who they are. They've won a championship I think 2 years back. So I think they'd win that series. I think Giannis and the depth they got, it'd just be a little too much for the Knicks. Then you got the Sixers versus the Celtics. As much as I like the Sixers, I think they're a really good team. This is just a bad matchup for them. The Celtics have owned them. They've won 3 out of 4 this year. And the game that the Sixers won, Joel Embiid had to drop 52 points, and Jalen Brown and Robert Williams didn't even play, and they only won by 2 points. Celtics are going to win in 6. This is just a bad matchup for the Sixers. I do think if the Sixers play the Bucks in the second round, they could have won. It's a better matchup,
Yeah.
but they're not going to beat Boston. You're going to have the Bucks and the Celtics in the conference finals, in my opinion. And then my team to win the East. Shout out Danny because I'm sticking. I'm going with his pick now. I'm gonna have the Bucks winning the East in 7 games. I think last year we saw the Celtics beat them in round 2 and they got to the finals. But this year is I think it's different because first the Bucks are gonna have home court advantage. That game 7 will not be in Boston; it'll be in Milwaukee. Also, Chris Middleton is back. They got a lead depth, like I said. We got the Bobby Portis, you got Drew Holiday, your starting point guard. You got Jay
Yeah.
Crowder, Goran Dragic. They signed. They got a lot of great pieces, great depth, and I think the Bucks will win in 7. It's gonna be a great series. So I got the Bucks coming out the East. Now going into the West, I would have uh, the Denver Nuggets playing the Phoenix Suns. I think that'd be a very interesting matchup. Bottom line is obviously Suns don't have as much chemistry, but Kevin Durant's a seamless fit. I'm gonna go with the Nuggets in 7, and my opinion is because obviously I look at KD and Booker. They obviously those two guys who scored 30 in their sleep. But on the other hand, Joker's gonna do what he does. He's gonna average 30, 10, and probably like 15 rebounds, probably like I don't know 8 assists. You got Jamal and MPJ. I think those two guys could average 20 both in that series. And then Aaron Gordon could be an X factor. He could, average around 10 to 17 points. You got Bruce Brown there still. You got Jeff Green. You got KCP. Just great, great pieces they got around them. I think the Nuggets would edge out in that series because bottom line is the Phoenix Suns depth is not that good. I mean, I'm not knocking them, but it's just not very strong, and I think that's why Denver would win that series. I think in 7 games. For me, then it would be the Warriors versus the Lakers in round 2. I think the Warriors will win in 7. I think the Lakers, who've had a great season, and LeBron and AD have been dominant, but I think bottom line is the Lakers have had to fight just to get into the postseason, and I think they're gonna go through a tough and grueling series against Memphis. So I think the Warriors will win in 7. I think with Steph, Clay, and then Andrew Wiggins at that time will probably be back into the lineup and probably the guy who he was this season. And I think it'll be a tough series. I think the Warriors will just edge out because you got Steph, you got Clay. I think they're gonna be, and then Jordan Poole. I think it's just gonna be too much firepower for the Lakers to handle. But it'll be a great series. So I'm gonna go edge out Warriors in 7. Then I'm gonna have the Nuggets and Warriors in the conference finals, and I'm gonna pick the Nuggets to win the series in 6. I think this is gonna be Joker's and Denver's years to get to the finals. I think that will be a really good series. But bottom line is Nuggets having home court, and then I don't know if the Warriors have anybody who could kind of guard Joker, and then the depth that they got. I think it's going to be a really good series, but I'm going to edge the Nuggets to win in 6. And then you have Bucks versus the Nuggets in the NBA Finals, and I'm going to have the Bucks winning the championship in 6 games, and Giannis winning his second championship, his second Finals MVP. And again, if Paul George was healthy, it would be Clippers and Bucks, and Clippers would win it all.
Interesting. I mean, for me, for my second round predictions for the East anyway, I'm going with it'll be Bucks versus Cavs. I'm gonna go Bucks in 5. Then the Cavs really are a good team. They did have a good run to the second round, but I thought the Bucks would be too much. And I'm gonna have the 76ers versus the Boston Celtics. This would be a good series, but I do have the 76ers edging the Celtics.
No way.
I'm gonna say 7
That's a
games.
bad matchup for them. They have not been able to beat
I'll
Boston.
feel like this is a pretty competitive series, but I gotta give the 76ers the edge. They got Harden, they got Embiid, some great players. The
They
Celtics
they
do too,
matched up
but
bad against Boston. I'm just letting you know
I
that.
just feel like
Okay.
76ers. I mean, the regular season, bro. Postseason, something else,
It's
man.
history. Even
But I'ma
postseason, they've
say,
owned
but
them.
I'ma say,
Okay. I don't.
I'm
Go
picking the
ahead.
76ers. Last time I checked, this was my prediction.
All right. Go
I'm
ahead.
predicting the 76ers to advance,
Okay.
and
In how many games?
I'm gonna say 7 games,
Okay.
and then to see who's in the finals, the conference final matchup would be Bucks 76ers. This may be controversial. I'm going 76ers in 7.
Okay. I like that. I think they
I
match up
feel
better
like they
against
can advance
Milwaukee.
past the Bucks, and this will be the finals trip. for Embiid and Harden. Now for the West, second round, I'm going with
Oh, you don't have to go.
Nuggets.
Suns. All Suns.
It'll be Nuggets versus Suns, and I do appreciate the run Jokic just had. His team is really good, but I feel like this is where you know the bus stops, man. And I see Suns winning this series. I'm gonna say in 7 games. I feel like it'll be a competitive series. Not gonna like diss Jokic or the Nuggets or anything. It'll be a really competitive series, but I'm gonna say Suns in 7. Now for the Warriors and Lakers, I'm gonna say Warriors in. I'm gonna say 7-2. I mean, it's LeBron James. I'm not gonna count him out. Warriors still have a great team. Wiggins will be back, and yeah, but that means the storybook matchup for the Western Conference Finals
This
with
guy with his
Kevin
just wants
Durant
Kevin Durant to sleep on the
facing
Warriors.
Steph Curry in the conference finals, a legacy defining matchup for both players.
It's more on KD, but just gonna
And
say
with that being said, I have the Phoenix Suns
no surprise.
advancing
No surprise.
advancing to the finals. I'm gonna say in 7 games. It'll be a competitive to the wire series, but KD, Booker, CP3, they'll just have the edge. KD will hush the narrative and make his first finals appearance without Steph Curry. And to continue, the finals matchup will be the Phoenix Suns versus the 76ers. Two former Nets players. Shout out Joe Tsai. Shout out Sean Marks.
Man,
But
always throwing shots at these guys, bro.
yeah, shout out Sean Marks. Shout out Joe Tsai. Two former Nets players here cooking up. But with that being said, I have the Phoenix Suns winning the title. I'm going to say in 7 games.
Dang, a lot of 7
End to
games.
end series. Two competitive teams. But I'm going to give it to the Suns with KD winning finals MVP, hushing the narrative, silencing the critics, muting the haters, and cementing his legacy, which I think was already cemented, but in the eyes of critics, too sure. But I feel like this will just, quiet everyone and show who he really is.
I
So I
told
have
you. I mean,
Suns in 7.
if you win this, like obviously, I wish he would have. I think if he was able to do it in Brooklyn, it would have been probably a lot better. Obviously, we already know Knicks are superior to the Nets. But regardless, if he wins this, championship in Phoenix, their window was closing. Even though they made it to the finals 2 years ago, their window was closing. Nobody thought they could win a championship. He comes back. They've never won a championship. They have 0 rings in Phoenix. Luka owns them. We know that. So if he's able to deliver a championship for Phoenix, their first championship, I mean, yeah, that should quiet everything and really put an end to knowing that he finally got a championship without Steph Curry. And even I would kind of end any criticism that I had for Kevin Durant. If he delivers a championship in Phoenix, but I don't believe that's going to happen this year. Now, eventually, he probably gets one, but he's lucky. They're lucky that Paul. Why the Suns catch first? No Kawhi. No PG. Didn't you hear what Kendrick Perkins said? He said Clippers in 6.
I mean,
And
no
Rondo
comment on
said the
Kendrick Perkins,
Clippers.
man.
They believe in the Clippers. You
No
believe in them too.
comment.
If Paul George was healthy, your Clippers would have won this series. They would have won the NBA championship. Kawhi Leonard would have 3 Finals MVP,
Sure,
3
bro.
championships.
Just like they were supposed to in the bubble, though. But yeah,
Oh
we
my
know what happened
God.
with that one. But yeah,
Only bringing up
yeah.
one instance. Ray Allen for 3,
Oh,
splash.
here we
The
go.
Heat.
Here we go.
He won the
Here we go, man.
championship.
Hey, man, I got nothing to say on that, bro. No
Oh,
comment.
Victor for the layup. Oh, but he's in Detroit.
Good one, bro. Good one, bro. I just want to know what you'll say if the Spurs finish above y'all next season with Victor leading the way, man, in the in
All
the in the
right, calm
postseason, bro.
down. They're not finishing above us.
Could you imagine we get the 6th seed, y'all get the
Bruh.
8th seed,
I thought
7th
I
seed
was
struggling in the
apparently
plane,
I
man.
was living in dreamland. Apparently I was
Shout out
living in
Victor,
dreamland.
man. Can't wait to see him in a Spurs jersey.
This guy, man. But that concludes episode 39 of Straight Sports Podcast. You can follow us at Straight Sports Podcast on Instagram. And if you haven't already, subscribe to our YouTube channel. And yeah, obviously these are our predictions.
Yep.
I got Bucks Nuggets, obviously due to the fact we already know if the Clippers were healthy, they were gonna win the whole thing. But I have the Bucks and Nuggets, obviously. And you got Phoenix and Philadelphia. I was expecting you to pick the Celtics or the Bucks. I was a little surprised by that. I just think the Celtics are a bad matchup for the Sixers.
Shout out Joe Tsai, man.
But regardless, look at this guy, bruh. Anyways, I have the Bucks Nuggets. You have the Phoenix Suns and Philadelphia 76. And to no surprise, he picked Phoenix. I mean, he picked Kevin Durant every year, and he's been wrong every year. I mean, I picked the Nets too a couple of times to make the finals. But regardless, you know, we'll see, whose prediction comes closer to be right. The finals are always interesting and fun. It's gonna be a fun playoffs. And yeah, obviously, we'll see what happens. And yeah, thanks for tuning in and catch you on the next episode.
Thanks for listening. Peace.